Winifrid by Haylie Brasch. I see the lights from the lake at night, warm and flickering like a candle, but it does not come from the lake's gravel shore, but beneath the dark, moss-colored waves. That glow has been the sole source of my interest and wonder for the last 5 years, since being sent here by my parents. That glow is what paints my daydreams and is the soft rocking that lulls me to sleep in the evening. It is also why Grandma locks the windows and doors at night. At the late noon's bell, when it echoes from the town and the valley below this little cabin, Grams takes that little brass-colored key down from the shelf too high for my reach, and she moves with the air of a priest delivering blessings. But instead of the feeling of cool water being sprinkled on me, I hear the loud lock of the windows bound by her many iron precautions. Every day, just before the sun's rays leave the lake, just before that soft glow glimmers on the water's surface. But tonight is different. That night was different. Grams forgot to lock the window by the porch. I noticed it when she called me into the living room. I sat at her feet as she slowly brushed my hair, readying me for bed. The black brush glided through my blonde hair, and my eyes shifted from the woman talking on the screen of her blurry tube TV to the window behind it, and I saw that the rusted lock remained open. I almost pointed it out, but something in my head made me pause. I had never hidden anything from my grandmother before. Never, but the flicker of opportunity shone and forced my lips shut. I waited until she put me in bed, and I told her I loved her when she kissed the top of my head. I asked her quietly to leave the door creaked open so I could hear her. Another lie. The guilt this endeavor was costing me started to weigh me down, but the thought of finally seeing that glow up close lifted that growing boulder off my chest. I lay in bed, eyes trained on the gap in the door, watching as Grams drank her tea, phoned the nice lady from the corner store who always let me have a piece of candy despite Grandma saying no, and then finally she walked off to bed. I waited until I heard her light turn off, then a while longer before I dared to leave my room. I very carefully crossed the wooden boards of our cabin. I could smell the strong floral scent of Graham's night mask and the lingering smell of dinner she had cooked that night. I crossed the hall and thanked all above that Grandma had loved thick, ugly rugs, ones that muted my footsteps as I walked across the living room to the TV's window. With sweaty palms, I lifted the window up. The old screen frame squeaked, and I froze. I waited until the racing of my heart slowed down, and the fact that she hadn't heard me was solidified before I moved once more. I pulled the window to the left as I lifted up, away from the rusty side that had almost made me wet myself, and finally I could feel the breeze from the dim woods outside. I used the TV stand to help me out of the window, careful not to get caught in its wires. I could only handle one near heart attack that night. I landed on the porch with a soft thud. When I got to its edge, I took off my socks, leaving them on the steps before walking across the damp earth. It was a short journey to the lake. All I had to do was travel the dirt path through the trees and down the slope to the rocky lake bed. Walking through the trees at night was like walking past the legs of giants. In the dark, the trails of sap looked like leg hair and broken bark the giants' veins. The long grass on the edge of the path tickled my own legs as I made my way down. When I hit the bottom of the trail, I carefully hopped from smooth rock to rock, careful not to fall in the rough and wet gravel. I could see it now. The golden light painted my skin. It was warm, and I swear it smelled of vanilla. I lay on my stomach and carefully peered over the edge. The glow was so bright it took a few moments for my eyes to adjust, but my gasp echoed across the lake when my eyes finally did adjust. There was a girl, staring back up at me from beneath the rippling water, a girl who was not part of my reflection. Her hair was an auburn color that glowed with light, flowing with the water like a flame. Her skin was a milky white and her eyes a dark coal. She looked like a candle. She looked just as shocked as I was. Her vision flickered as if my appearance shocked her out of existence for a moment. But when her form stayed, I couldn't help myself. I reached down to her. The water was frigid and splashed up my sleeve, and at that moment I couldn't help but wonder how she could manage staying somewhere so cold. She hesitated for a moment before reaching up herself. When our fingers touched, it was like all the loneliness from being sent away disappeared. I had a friend, and something in me knew she felt the same. When her head broke the surface, she let out a spluttering gasp, and I helped her up on the rock. "Thank you," she coughed as I pulled a vine of pondweed off her. "I'm Alice," she said, fixing her nightgown. It was like that of a princess, long with puffed sleeves. "Winnie," I said back, almost forgetting my own name. Winifred was the full thing, but I felt that still belonged to Grandma. Why on earth were you living in the lake? I had so many questions for her. Where she was from, how she got stuck in the water, why her hair glowed, and if she could make mine glow too. She answered then as best she could. She didn't remember the name of where she was from, someplace far, but she did remember falling into the water. She had been in the overhanging tree when it fell, the branch snapping and sending her splashing in the water. She said she had been waiting for a hand up since then, and that she couldn't make my hair glow, but she could braid it for me. And then that night became the best night of my life. We did everything I've been dying to do with a friend. We ran through the tall grass in the clearing east of the cabin. The fireflies burst out of the dry reeds, lighting up around us like glowing rain. We played in the creek south of it, gathering and trading the smooth river stones. She braided my hair and told me stories of carriages drawn by horses, and I told her of the time my father crashed the family Cadillac into a ditch. She didn't seem to know what I meant when I mentioned it, though. We played and talked all night. I never wanted it to end, but when the sun slowly began to come up, I knew Grams would be up soon to wake me, and I knew I had to go home. I wanted Alice to come with me, but when I looked back on the path, she wouldn't move. She looked sick. The lower the moon sank, the quieter she got. Allie, I had taken to calling her that. Alice seemed too formal for a best friend. Alice didn't move. She just shook her head. I can't go home, Winnie. I have to go home, she said as she took a step back to the lake, to that cold green water that would freeze her up. I was overwhelmed with a kind of sadness too deep for a child, especially one who had found her first friend, and I ran to her, hugging her as tight as I could. She hugged me back, and we both cried. It was unfair. We hugged each other for a long while before we split apart, both our noses red and runny. Promise you won't forget me? She asked, her dark eyes teary. I promise, I declared with all the adultness I could muster. We traded the ribbons we had used for our hair and then ran back to the house, my eyes blurry with tears. I couldn't watch her go, and I knew she did the same. Getting back into the cabin was so hazy that the next morning I thought Alice had all been a dream, but the silver ribbon now replacing my emerald one made me know it was true. I hid it below the floorboard under my bed before Grandma could question it, the same ribbon I grabbed now as a college graduate. I went to school out of state and had wanted to see the world, but life had other plans. Grams had passed peacefully in her sleep. She left the cabin and all she had to me. Going through her things was hard. It pained me to lose her, but at night when the sun sank low, curling up in her chair, drinking her brand of tea, and looking through her photo albums made me feel like she was still there with me. She had never let me see these before. I hadn't even seen her own childhood photos before. It was like discovering a new part of her. Her photos were old, but one stuck out to me. 2 little girls hand in hand. It was Alice. I knew it was her. I had kept my promise. But the name besides hers on the back of the photo caught me off guard. Winifred. And when I looked out the great window overlooking the lake, 2 little flames danced together under the water's surface.